How's it going, YouTube? Coming to today with another video. And today, guys, what the video is going to be aware to Handtrap. Now, today is going to be a little bit limited because we're going to be talking about very specific matchups for post-Blazing Dominion, especially post a potential ban list. These are going to be the most relevant matchups that you'll be playing against the most. And I feel like it's really important to talk about a lot of the nuances. One thing I will say today is I did not include Fedralis Harmonious or Dominant Spark. Those will be observed and then put into the next one, because of the fact that they're so new and they're so nuanced as well, that I really want to make sure that when I put them in here that they're very accurate. Yes, they are very specific and they can do some very cool things in the format, but I'm going to stick with the generics for this one, and then we'll add those in for the next Where to Handtrap. But these are going to be the more important matchups that you really want to understand how these work for next format, because they can just be game ending. Things like Kewl Tune ripping the extra deck, things like Doomz putting up the Joel trap and then being able to have you under like shifter-esque effects, right? So these are going to be things that you want to make sure that you can stop these decks early so you don't have to worry about these scenarios. But if you haven't already checked out my sponsors over on Gem, Cloud, Arla, Imperium, Dragonshield, RW, MainPhaze, and Grimoire, definitely go and do so down below in the description. Also, definitely go and check out my coaching over at METAFY for one-on-one testing. And then subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, so we can hit our goal at 30,000. Now, without further ado, let's hop right into Kewl Tune. Now, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Kewl Tune is not the deck that you want to be hand trapping. It's just not. Most of the effects are probably being chain blocked that you care about. So this is where things like Bell, things like Ash cannot always be the best. And I'll show you that there are options for your own turn that you might want to hold Ash and Bell for. So we'll talk about that as well. So the first thing here is going to be DD Crow and Crackle. You can also bell it if it's like on the end of the chain link, right? Which would be optimal, but not always going to be something presented. But Crackle is really good, being able to rip the extra deck and come back to the board. So if you can get rid of that, excellent. The next one here is going to be Retaliating C. You can hit Kewl Tune Synchro or Synchro Overtake. And then when we get over tuning, you can also hit that as well. Retaliating C is still going to be very relevant in the format, and I think that it's going to be really good moving forward. Since most things will be chain blocked in this deck, I'm just going to go ahead and Ash the very first thing that's summoned, Rico, Mix, what have it be, just because at that point your Ash isn't really going to do a whole lot for you. Ogre on Kewl Tune, because of the fact that they can just like summon another one, right? You just want to get rid of it. And then Valor Imperm onto Maker. I feel like that's just going to be your best bet. But what I really want to talk about is going to be Ash on your own turn for things like Kewl Tune Synchro. I think that that's really strong, because if you already know what's on the board, you just have to deal with Clip and Kewl Tune Synchro. So if you can get rid of one of those options, then you don't really have to worry about too much more extension on your own turn. Post side, Kewl Tune Mirror, you want to make sure you're holding your bell for Godos. This card is one of the craziest mirror cards, and specifically in Kewl Tune, this card is broken. So if your opponent adds a card from their deck to their hand, right, you can summon this card, quick effect, target a monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it to your field, but banish it when it leaves the field. Now, if your opponent puts like a Rico in grave, it's going to be a lot of interruption coming off of one Godos, right? This card is very, very strong, and it's something that there is I think a rare printing and a super rare printing, and the super rares are already like $2. So like if you want to get yours, I definitely would. This card is going to absolutely wreck the mirror. So this is something that you want to make sure that you have and that you are very aware is in the format. The next one being Elfnote Fiendsmith. Now, Fiendsmith cards are going to be interacted the same way we always have been, because of the fact that things like Caesar are just a problem, right? Like, that card is just so very good, and you want to make sure that you are shutting off access to it. Whether you're GD Crowing the Engraver at a grave when they go to shuffle one back, you have Nibiru for when they present the Necroquip and the Engraver, or your Belling Engraver, so your opponent doesn't get to the Caesar. Your opponent is just going to go Medius, summon the Power Patron, and then they're going to be going directly into Armades, Keeper of Boundaries, and then going directly into Fiendsmith line, which is like kind of crazy. They can just do that, but this is going to be the stoppage for the Fiendsmith side of things. I really like Ogre on Welcome Home, or just like Ashing Welcome Home, but you can also just like straight up Ogre the trap card here, the Madness, because it is a negate if they control Synchro. I think Ogre has a lot of potential for next format as well. I think that it's like actually not terrible. There's a lot of spots where it can be really good. but hitting the Madness is insane with the Ogre. You can also hit Welcome Home if you want to try to stop them early, but this is going to be a good spot to Ash, and then if you have Ash Ogre, right, I know that's not the most popular card, but if you have Ogre for Madness or Welcome Home as well, it's really strong. I'm still under the impression that Valor Imperm on METAFY Superior is still just like the best spot. I really just don't want my opponent to be able to get a free summon out of deck because METAFY just represents Tour Guide, and we're just not letting that resolve. And then Bell onto the Synchro so they can't get back to their Power Patron as well, just so they can't keep going. Now here's the one that a lot of people have been waiting for, and that's going to be Doomz. Now, Nib plus Valor, a lot of times you can just raw Nib and you're fine, but there are times when your opponent puts up like a Verudurus or a Regulus and you got a Valor first and then Nib. So that's something to also keep in mind, but Nib is still very strong with this matchup. It's still very good. I've watched so many matches of Doomz, and Nib has just always been the #1 thing. Just be like, wow, that card sucks. And there are ways for this deck to be able to like beat Nib for sure. But if you open like the Nib Valor, the Nib Imperm, it's really rough for this deck to be able to play. DD Crow on Destruction, you want to do this. So they're always adding Destruction back from grave in combo. So this is something when they go to use the effect to add it back from grave, you chain DD Crow and just get it out of there. So you don't want to deal with the draw effect. Belling the change, and then ashing Raiders is really good. There's a lot of times when your opponent goes through the line where they summon the Griflario, and then they'll try to like Raiders pop it, and then be able to go like way crazier in card advantage. So being able to ash the Raiders is going to be extremely important. And then again, Ghost Ogre coming up again, hitting Vidolia, another very strong hit that you want to make sure that you have. And then Valor Imperm onto the Griflario. This card is going to be really strong for the archetype and being able to get to things like Raiders, so you want to stop that. But if you do want to stop something early, you can always hit the Sargus so your opponent doesn't get to things like Regulus as well. This matchup will be something that you will see quite often, and I just want to make sure that you are prepared as possible. Hitting the Destruction on the grave with DD Crow is really strong. Hitting the Raiders with Ash is very strong. And then hitting the Doomz Exceed here with Valor Imperm is extremely strong. And then I wanted to talk about White Forest one more time in this video because of the fact that this deck can play Fidralis and it can play Spark. So this is something where if they're foregoing like the DMod engine and they're just playing the Fidralis, that's fine. But this is a deck that you will start seeing again. So this is something that you want to make sure that you're aware of. If your opponent has Gaze targeting DMod, you can always DD Crow the DMod. You can always Bell the Wanted, Ash LZ in hand when they go to pitch one. You can Ogre the Diabellstar. A lot of people look at like Deception for the Ogre, but Ogreing Diabellstar cuts them off from the DMod, and that's really impactful because now it's just like fairly awkward for your opponent. Then Valor Imperm onto Sylvia when it hits the board, just so your opponent can't get started completely. But I do hope to enjoy today's video, and I do hope that this is helpful in terms of testing for the new format. There's a lot of new information coming out right now, so you want to make sure that you are just always up to date with as much as you can be, and then just continuously apply that to your gameplay. If you haven't already checked out my Twitter, Twitch, Discord, Instagram, and subscribe to the channel, definitely go ahead and do so, and I'll check you all in the next video. Thank you.